Target Trading Academy.
Good afternoon, everybody. Preston Vogl here at Target Trading Academy with today's Micros Market Recap. So let's get right into it. It is Wednesday, May 3rd. Today was the FOMC day. It was a little bit slow in the morning. Surprisingly, this week, we've had quite a bit of volatility. Usually when we got FOMC news of any kind, it's deader than a doornail. This morning was slower, I will give you that. So overall, it was a little bit slower, but we did have decent moves. I would say with that 2 o'clock news, though, we didn't have a big run. That was yesterday where we had that large run. And I'll open up that market profile here. You can see where we opened and then we just came down. And today we did have a decent expansion, but the majority of the day this morning is where it was slow. And then it was just consolidated. And then after all that news did we get a move, which is a little odd. So we'll be monitoring that, see if they're going to make that a little habit for a little while. But let's get right into it. Micro oil opened well below that close. I'm trying to get my drawing tool up here, so hold on, bear with me. I'm just trying to get it on. All right, so it's not working for whatever reason, but we opened gap down. That's the contract low up here, this dark line. So we opened well below that close, well below the range low, the contract low from yesterday. There was a move down. They had two attempts really to try to break up and go towards that close, but they were short-lived. Ultimately, sellers took hold of that and just drove it down even further. So there were trending entry potentials in oil today, but we are finishing net down. As far as gold goes, we opened pretty much just below the close. They struggled initially to getting through that HVA edge, a good hour or so. Once they finally got above it, we had some good response at that range high and then that contract edge two more times for the longs. We had that one opportunity to go short there. But ultimately, they did make new highs, and then you can see that FOMC had a little bit more impact in gold than it did oil. But ultimately, at that point, gold was already closed at 130. So 2 o'clock came around. People are trading the after hours of gold, and you can see that it did close net positive. So net negative in oil, net positive in gold. Now to the equities. We'll see if we can scrunch this back a little bit. Let's see here. That's as far as it's going to let me go. So that's the FOMC, this big line here. I'm trying to distinguish that. I apologize for not having that drawing tool. But you can see we opened around the middle of the range from the day from yesterday, above the close, and initially we just opened and tried to break out this HVA edge, and it held quite a while. Ultimately, they did break out within that first 15 minutes, and looked like they might be taking it for a run up. And I was hopeful that they would have volatility on the day, but it was short-lived. And you can see first 30 minutes didn't really make a ton of progress. And at that moment, I knew that it was going to most likely go revert to being that choppy, slower-esque kind of day when you have that FOMC. And you can see today was no exception. Very slow, methodical. But we did have plenty of opportunity at this HVA edge. A little too much, I would say. You can see the response for both the long and the short off this edge today. And then when that news came out, yes, the volatility did pick up. The movement did pick up, but we didn't really get into anything new until 30, 40 minutes after that announcement where we had this edge here come into play. And then ultimately, just before the close, did they start breaking down. So an hour or so before the close, did we get an opportunity to go long here, first time, second time, and then it broke. And then we got another opportunity or two. So we had a little bit more in the afternoon than we did in the pit. And that's usually not the case. Usually it's the from the pit open to lunch where you have more opportunities, where today was the inverse of that. But we are closing that down in the equities. So if we take a look at NASDAQ here, I'll scroll back. There's that FOMC. It's a similar scenario, right? You're just consolidating between two data points and you're not leaving it. And they just did not want to leave that during lunch at all. It was more of a grind, but not as bad as the grind that we've had some prior. I want to say it was like a month ago, 2 months ago, where we were just going sideways. I know last month, beginning of that month, we had 2-3 weeks of just straight sideways action, and it was miserable. Uh, the good thing is we're not really seeing that anymore. It is slower some days, but it's not as congested. They do have those little bit more of a range extension, which is nice because it does give us more opportunities on the day. But with the NASDAQ, just going back to this market, you can see once that news came out, that volatility did increase, and that's what we like to see, some good participation to be able to look for all those opportunities. You can see with that 2 o'clock announcement, it did stop for potential entry at the edge, rebounded at the other opposite end, finally broke through, and then came back up and gave a long entry, and then another short entry, and then a long entry around 240-ish, and then made some new highs, turned around, and then ultimately, like the ES, finally broke down and made new lows. Uh, quite frankly, I would have expected that earlier in the day. But, you take what you get when you get it, and you just have to be ready to go after it. And that's just what happened today. I didn't get my trades until later in the afternoon, and that just is what it is. So if we are, once again, closed net down in the equities, net down in oil, and positive in gold. If you're interested in learning more information about these levels and how you can get them onto your charts the night before, feel free to reach out to us. We are Target Trading Academy. You can find us on Facebook or go to our website at targettrading.co. Again, that is targettrading.co. Get in touch with a consultant at either of those locations. They'll gladly show you what we do in our rooms each and every day, and you'll be able to see for yourself why we are the #1 trading education company in the world. We look forward to seeing you there.